Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Thursday, March the 6th, 2025. And Jesus, beautiful here this morning. It was hot yesterday, but we had a cool change last night. A bit of rain as well, but this morning is absolutely beautiful. It's just a really nice temperature. You know what it's like when we've had rain. It's just a nice smell and just beautiful morning for a walk anyway. So here we are, Neil and I. And actually I haven't sort of mentioned it, but if you are in the Queensland area as well, hope everyone is safe up there. Of course, Cyclone Alfred is about to hit. Looks like today or tomorrow. So let's hope everyone up there is battening down the hatches and staying safe. So shout out to everybody up there. With the boxing, quick one. I just want to put probably a full stop for now anyway on the Tank Davis, come here man, Lamont Roach fight. He's tangled himself up there. The WBA has made a statement of sorts. Now it's really just a comment. It was on their website. And where are you going, buddy? And this is what they had to say about the failure of Steve Willis to issue a count on Tank Davis, who took a knee in the 9th round. This is what they had to say. From our perspective, Willis's decision was not unreasonable or unjustifiable. He ruled in real time that Davis had not been struck by a punch before going down, and therefore no knockdown should be recorded. Judges, by regulation, must follow the referee's rulings. They do not have the authority to override his decisions on knockdowns. Some skeptics have suggested that Willis's call benefited Davis unfairly, but we do not subscribe to that notion. In our long experience judging fights, we see no evidence of favouritism, only a referee prioritising the physical safety of a fighter who appeared compromised by an eye injury. So, come here, man. Jeez, he's taking me on both sides of the road. So just read that again. So he ruled in real time that Davis had not been struck by a punch before going down, which is, yep, that's fine. And therefore no knockdown should be recorded. Yeah, so that's fine. Judges by regulation must follow the referee's rulings. They do not have the authority to override his decisions on knockdown. So that's fine. They're saying that he ruled that the punch was not, or the knockdown was not ruled by a punch. That's fair enough. But the fact that he actually took a knee, doesn't that take it out of his hands as far as judging whether he was hit or not? He took a knee. And whether you're hit or you're not hit, this is the way I understand anyway, whether you're hit or not hit or whatever, if you decide to take a knee during the round, that is an automatic count. That's what I've sort of found by the last few days, trying to research as much as I can, and that is the overriding result that I sort of saw, was that yes, if you do take a knee, that is an automatic count. So I get that he said, well, it wasn't a knockdown, that's clear. So I'm not going to award it as a proper knockdown, but at the same time, you took a knee, so I'm going to give you a standing 8 count, and then that constitutes maybe a 10-8 round. That's the only thing I haven't been able to clear up, is that if the judges have the prerogative to actually take or score the round 10-8 or not, but they have to score it a knockdown. So anyway, that is it for now as far as the WBA, and that probably shows you that the WBA aren't going to pursue this in any way as far as justice for Lamont Roach. I'd say what they would do, there has been outcry, and there will be probably more outcry. Who knows, Lamont Roach might protest or launch legal action, who knows, but the odds are there'll be a rematch. It's just a matter of when and where. Tank was talking about the end of May. Well, this is coming from a guy that fights once every sort of 12 to 18 months, so I don't think that's going to happen. But at some stage, yeah, you would find that it'll be taken out of his hands and he will have to defend against Lamont Roach. Now, some big news overnight. It's been cooking for a while, but it's been officially announced that Dana White will enter boxing with his backing company TKO. They own WWE and UFC, so they are an absolute Goliath when it comes to world sport. Probably, well, they are easily the biggest power brokers in boxing. And I know Turki Al Sheik's in there, but these guys would probably almost outdo him. They're actually teamed up with Turki Al Sheik, by the way, so he's involved. But to have those two companies, UFC and the World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE, is a massive thing to have behind you. And apparently he's going to fix boxing. Now, I did see a bit of an interview we did with Stephen A. Smith and someone else on one of the sports shows, and he said he's going to fix boxing. I'm not sure boxing is needing to be fixed at the moment, but I mean, Turki Al Sheik's done a great job. Where are we going there, buddy? But he is in partnership, so obviously he thinks more needs to be done. But he said the way he's going to build the company is like they did with the UFC, from the ground up. Start with boxers and work the way up like they did, and have the best fight the best. Now, the other thing he said was, enough of these alphabet organisations, we're going to fix it by, you guessed it, creating another belt. So to fix the problems with all the belts out there at the moment, the 5 belts, and I'm including the ring in that one, they're going to create a 6th belt. So that's probably the first thing I don't get. The other thing is, I just don't know how they're going to do it with, come here, man, with Eddie Hearn, De La Hoya, Frank Warren, Bob Arum's been involved, Oscar De La Hoya, all involved. How are they going to do it with those guys in conjunction now? That looks like, from what I can see, like I know the end game, and I think it's great in principle. I do. To create something from the UFC from the ground up, like the UFC from the ground up, and start with X amount of boxers. The only thing I could probably see they could do is start with young fighters, and it might take years to build up. So they're trying to get those young, you know, the Andy Cruzes of the world, I suppose, the ones, the gunfighters that are coming up, the Xander Zayas, all these types of guys, and start with them and have their one belt and have the best fight the best. But there's no way they can do it at the moment, because all the best fighters out there are with Eddie Hearn, Oscar De La Hoya, and Turki himself. So what does he do? Does he talk to Oscar and Eddie and ask him to put their fighters on their cards and in their organisation? I don't know, but it was launched at a press conference, so it's definitely happening. I just don't see how it works unless, as I said, they start it from the ground up. But it might take 5 to 10 years to have a group of fighters that are capable. And that's great. They're all fighting against each other and having their big cards like they do with the UFC. But they're not going to have all the best fighters. You reckon Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya, are going to give up their fighters? Not going to happen. There is rumours, though, that the Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford fight in September in Las Vegas will be promoted in conjunction with TKO. So they're going to start the organisation, they're going to start with a bang. Canelo, of course, has only got probably a couple of years left, so he's not going to be the face of it, you wouldn't have thought. But apparently they're going to launch the TKO event with that first promotion. So, look, I'm not going to say it's not going to work. I suppose that's unfair, because if anyone can make it work, it is Dana White. And he's been talking about coming into boxing for a long, long time. Well, now he's going to do it. And the fact he's got Turki Al Sheik riding shotgun, you know in some way it's going to work. My only question is how does it work in conjunction with Oscar and Eddie and Frank and all the other promoters that Turki Al Sheik is currently working with? How can you have a UFC type of setup, which I do welcome, by the way, in theory? How do you create it when you're going to have nowhere near the best fighters in the world in it? Now, the UFC, of course, too, they are the biggest organisation, and there are some good UFC fighters that don't fight for the organisation, but who knows who they are? No one. Well, I'm not a UFC fan, but I can sort of reel off some of the biggest names in the sport, and I wouldn't have a clue who those fighters are that aren't with UFC. So, yeah, look, again, I'm not going to say it's not going to work, because these guys, a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of contacts, a lot of everything, really. And a great track record. So I've got no doubt it will work in some way. I just need to be proven, or they need to prove to me that it's fair income by, you know, are they going to have the best fighters, or just start from the ground up with, you know, maybe, you know, 20 or 30 just young up and comers who they can really start from scratch. But how long will they give it to work? Because if they start off with, say, 20 or 30, just, you know, late teens, early 20s fighters, you know, none of them have had more than 10 fights, and identify the young prospects coming through and earmark them for the organisation, and then try and build it from there. The odds are they pick 30 of them, only about half a dozen of them are actually going to be any good. That's just the way boxing works. And not just that, in the meantime, not going to have exclusive access to those fighters. You're going to have Eddie and Oscar out there who've got companies to run as well, and other promoters. They need to keep building their stables as well for their new up-and-coming stars. They're not together. How does it work? So, and you've got to remember too, Oscar, it's easy to say, well, they all just work together, but Oscar and Dana have this massive feud going at the moment. But the intangible in the middle, of course, is Turki Al Sheikh. He might bring the boys together, and we might have a dinner where they break bread and it's all good. Who knows? But good in theory anyway. But again, I'm not sure how you solve the problem of having 4 or 5 belts when you create yet another belt and call that the real world championship. Anyway, but I'll be very interested to see. In other news, yesterday, a couple of things. George Kambosos had his press conference in Sydney. Not the usual George. G'day, mate. G'day. Come here, man. Not the usual big press conference that we're probably used to with George. It was probably more like just a session at the gym. I think they set it up there. They did bring Iman Kadaev out though. Geez, he's a formidable guy. And I have stood next to Iman at the Jai Pattaya fight. He came over and said g'day. He's not real tall. Probably, I reckon he's only about 5'7", 5'8". But geez, just a presence about him. He's just a tank, and he can fight, he can punch. He's going to be a very, very good fighter. And Jim Kambosos has actually said they offered every light heavyweight in Australia some good money, and no one wanted a bar of Iman Kadaev, and I can 100% understand why. I mean, it does make sense. Someone like, say, a Conor Wallace, why he would want to fight Iman Kadaev right now. He's on the verge of, you know, maybe a world title fight in the next sort of 12 to 18 months. Why would he risk that against a guy who's had, what, half a dozen fights? Doesn't make sense. So I get that. But, you know, Paulo Cuso on the same sort of track. So anyway, I get it. But geez, he's a beast. But George, look, he tried to talk up the fight as best he could. There are serious rumours out there that the fight is not selling well at all. I hope that's not the case. I hope they do get a good crowd. I'm just glad to see George back. And whether you think he's at that level or not, geez, he just brings so much entertainment and attention to Aussie boxing. So I'm hoping that he gets through this, and then he gets that Hitchens fight later in the year. And Eddie Hearn did actually speak about that, I think it was yesterday or the day before, saying that that is the plan for, I think, late June, early July. I think they're talking about of that fight. So plenty at stake for George Kambosos. And again, I hope they get a few people there for that. But I think I've said in the past, Jim is the same. Just very, very good promoters of the sport, and they talk it up, and they put all sorts of things on top of it to make it, like mayonnaise and you name it, a bit of sugar on it, you name it. They put it all on together to talk it up. But yeah, let's hope he gets that win over Jordan, and we see him in that world title fight later in the year. And also yesterday there was the big No Limit launch. Now I know they've sort of done this in the past a little bit, I think, No Limit, but yesterday they really turned it on. They had both Zoo Boys there, and they had all the stable of stars there. What was interesting I saw though was Paulo Cuso was actually there. Now, you can remember a couple of years ago, there was a little bit of a fallout, or Paulo Cuso decided to go his own way. No surprises that he's back in the fold, and the fact that he's all smiles at the season launch, if that's what you call it, riding or walking the red carpet, which is, they've put out all the stops there. They had TV cameras, they had the red carpet, they had the little backdrop there for photos and interviews, and I saw Glenn Jennings walk down there. He was a bit nonplussed, like, what the hell's all this? But it was good. But yeah, the fact that Paulo Cuso was there, I'm hoping that that means that he will be back on the No Limit roster, and we might see him in some big fights. Because let's face it, the other thing he went for, the other promoters, the Stan Sport thing, has been an absolute disaster for Paulo Acuso. He's probably wasted a couple of years of his career, really, when you think about it, because I know he's had a couple of okay fights there, but no one's known about him, no one's talking about him, no one's talking about him, and they should be. He's a very, very good young fighter, capable of winning a world title, and yeah, he should be on those big shows. Liam Paro was there as well, looking pretty happy. He's on the verge of some big things, and some things actually they revealed at the launch. Now, I've had to write these down. I don't normally like looking at my phone unless I have to. Okay, I like to sort of talk off the cuff, but I'm just going to bring up, where was it? Some of the points from last night, and if I can bring it up. No, hang on. There it is. All right, so some key dates to keep a lookout for this year. The first 6 months or the next 6 months, they have revealed this. So I'm not sure whether you already read this or not, but here they are. So first of all, of course, we've got the fights next week, Thurman and Jarvis, Spencer and Zhu on, April the 6th. Looking like Nikita will be the end of April, but even looking into May now, so that hand might be a little bit more serious than what we thought. Come on, man, you're really testing me here. Come on. All right. Hang on, we'll let him untangle here. All right. All right, these are the dates. Sorry, I'll get to it eventually. All right. The next one. All right, so they're looking at the if Thurman gets past Jarvis and Tim gets past Spencer, they're looking at a July 6th card on the Gold Coast. So it will be up probably in the the Entertainment Centre up there on the Gold Coast. Really good venue for boxing too, I will say. Now that's looking like a massive card if it takes place. So because they're looking at Liam Paro also maybe being on that bill. All right, speaking of, I'll get to Liam Paro in a sec, but maybe having Liam Paro and Liam Wilson on that card as well in big fight. So that's July 6th on the Gold Coast. May 14th, we'll see the return of Sam Goodman. And he was there last night as well. Gotta say, he looks like he's had a nice, enjoyable couple of months off. Did not look like he was at the 122-pound limit, let's just say. Look, I know all fighters blow up a bit in between fights, and maybe I'm being a bit unfair. Maybe it was just the clothes he was wearing, whatever, but it did look like he'd taken a couple of months off, and no dramas with that either, by the way. I mean, he's had a pretty intriguing couple of months and disappointing couple of months, so I can see why they probably said for him to take a break. So he's May 14th. That'll be in Sydney, by the way. Then on June the 11th, actually that was what I was speaking about. Sorry, I forgot about Nikita. So I did say in the May. It's actually looking like even like June. Sorry, it's got here. So June 11th in Cairns. Looks like it could be Nikita, but also maybe Liam Paro. So if Liam doesn't fight on that July 6th card, they'll put him on the June 11th card in Cairns. Then they're also looking at stepping up Callum Peters against Kira Rushton, which will be a really good fight, July 23rd in Brisbane. That will probably be a no limit on Fox. But apparently they've got 10 pay-per-views planned for the year and half a dozen no limit on Fox shows as well. So they're going to be very, very proactive, and I'm just loving now that there's, you've got Eddie in with Tasman Fighters as well. The bar has been raised big time, and I love it, because now you know what's going to happen. Eddie and Mick Francis are going to get together and go, well, what are we going to do? It's a bit like what's happening in world boxing at the moment. We've got the WBC with a boxing league about to be launched. You've got the TKO and Dana White thing with their boxing association, or what are they going to call it? The Ultimate Boxing Championship, maybe. You got that happening. You've got all the Riyadh season stuff, and now here in Australia, you've got a little bit of that happening as well. So I think it's awesome. And the other thing, No Limit are also looking to do shows in Perth and Adelaide in the second half of 2025. So wow, we are really in the midst of another golden age of boxing, and I love the fact that now No Limit have stepped up. I was wondering what they would do with Eddie coming in with Tasman Fighters. Well, I'm glad to say, or glad to see, that they've said, all right, boys, you want to come into our turf? We are the big boys in Australia. This is what we've got to offer. They're proactive. They're signing guys like Liam Paro. Looks like they're going to get Paulo Acuso back. They've got Liam Wilson maybe on the verge of a world title as well. Sam Goodman, of course, although he hasn't been mentioned in any big fight since that one got cancelled. All right, I'll come. This car just waiting for me to... What are you doing there? All right. All right, are we happy? All good. All right. All right, so just to go through that again. So you've got the... All right, so it looks like we'll go by the date. So May 14th, Sam Goodman in Sydney. Come here. June 11th will be Liam Paro in Cairns, it looks like. Maybe Nikita Zoo on that card as well. Come here, man. Jeez. What's that? July 6th, Zoo Thurman, if all goes according to plan, on the Gold Coast. And then July 23rd, Cullen Peters and Kira Rushton in Brisbane. And then those other dates maybe in Perth and Adelaide later in the year. So just a little bit of an insight of what they've all got planned. But what's looking like a massive year for Aussie boxing. Now, maybe we won't get all those world title fights that we had last year, but it looks like we're going to get the next best thing, and that is some really good cards featuring some of the best fighters in Australia on big shows. So let us know your thoughts. So guys, have a great Thursday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.